You are walking through a graveyard, but the headstones are brightly colored and the air smells like warm yeast. You believe the fresh sticker on that supermarket chicken means it was prepared recently, or that the bread in the bakery aisle was kneaded this morning by human hands. The reality is that meat may have been chemically bathed to hide the gray decay of aging flesh long before it hit the shelf, and that bread was likely frozen months ago in a factory hundreds of miles away. You aren't buying freshness. You are buying a cosmetic illusion designed to stop you from asking why your food lasts longer than it naturally should. You're watching Protect Our Cart, exposing the aisles you trust. If you value this depth of analysis, subscribing ensures you don't miss the next investigation. When you walk into a Tesco, a Sainsbury's, or an Asda, you are entering a carefully constructed psychological trap. The layout is not accidental. It is a roadmap designed to bypass your logical decision-making and tap directly into your sensory impulses. Notice how you are almost always greeted by the produce section or the bakery. This is the decompression zone. The vibrant greens of the peppers and the rustic browns of the loaves are placed there to signal health and freshness, establishing a halo effect that you subconsciously carry with you into the processed aisles deep in the store. You trust the frozen pizza because you saw the fresh apples first. But that trust is misplaced, specifically regarding 5 categories of food that industry insiders often refuse to eat themselves. To understand why, we have to peel back the label and look at the chemistry of convenience. The first item you must reconsider is the cornerstone of the British lunch, the supermarket freshly baked loaf. It sits there in its wicker basket, open and inviting, perhaps still warm to the touch. The scent is intoxicating. But that scent is often the only real thing about it, and even that is sometimes engineered. The vast majority of supermarket in-store bakery bread is not made from scratch on-site. It is what the industry calls par-baked. These loaves are manufactured in massive industrial plants, frozen solid, and shipped across the country. The baker in your local store is merely reheating a frozen corpse of dough to give it a tan. The issue isn't just the freezing. It is the method used to make the bread survive this suspended animation. Traditional bread requires time for yeast to ferment, time for gluten to develop, time for flavor to deepen. But time is money, and UK supermarkets operate on the Chorleywood bread process. Developed in the 1960s to use lower-protein British wheat, this process uses high-speed mixing and a cocktail of additives to force the dough to rise in a fraction of the time. To survive the mechanical violence of high-speed mixers and the freezing process, the dough is laced with processing aids. Here is the part the label won't tell you. Under UK law, processing aids do not have to be listed as ingredients if they are used during manufacture but are not present in the final product in significant amounts. This loophole allows for the use of enzymes like phospholipase or amylase, which alter the structure of the dough to keep it soft for days. While deemed safe, these enzymes mean you are eating a product that has been chemically predigested. Your body processes this ultra-rapidly fermented starch differently than it would a traditional sourdough, leading to the spikes in blood sugar and the bloating that so many people mistakenly attribute to gluten intolerance. You aren't necessarily intolerant to wheat, you are intolerant to industrial speed. If you move from the bakery to the chiller cabinets, you encounter the second offender, a product that symbolizes the sad compromise of modern dining, the prepackaged sandwich. It is a £3 billion industry in the UK, a marvel of logistics, but a nutritional disaster. A homemade sandwich lasts perhaps 4 hours before the bread goes stale and the lettuce wilts. A supermarket sandwich can sit there for days, looking exactly the same. How? The secret lies in a technique called modified atmosphere packaging, or MAP. If you look closely at the plastic wrapper, you might see it is slightly puffed up. That isn't air. The oxygen has been sucked out and replaced with a specific gas mixture, usually carbon dioxide and nitrogen. This gas suffocates the bacteria that would normally cause decay and prevents the oxidation that turns lettuce brown. It is a suspended animation chamber for your lunch. While the gas itself is harmless, it allows the food to be much older than it looks. The tomatoes in that BLT could have been sliced days ago, losing their water-soluble vitamins with every passing hour. Furthermore, to prevent the bread from becoming a soggy mess from the mayonnaise or the tomato moisture, the bread is often formulated with extra barriers, more enzymes, more emulsifiers, and the mayonnaise is engineered to have a higher oil content to create a waterproof layer. You are eating a sandwich designed for shelf stability, not human digestion. But the darker risk with prepackaged sandwiches involves listeria. Unlike other bacteria, Listeria monocytogenes can grow at refrigerator temperatures. The complex supply chain of a sandwich, where ingredients like eggs, lettuce, ham, and cheese come from different factories to be assembled in a cold room, creates multiple points of contamination. When you buy a sandwich that has been sitting in a cold chain for 3 days, you are rolling the dice on bacterial growth that you cannot see, smell, or taste. The deception continues as you navigate toward the healthy options. This brings us to the third category, the low-fat fruit yogurt. For decades, we have been conditioned to fear fat, a narrative pushed by the sugar industry in the mid-20th century. Supermarkets capitalized on this by filling entire aisles with 0% fat or light dairy products. But when you remove fat from a natural product like yogurt, you remove the texture and the mouthfeel. It becomes a thin, watery, unappetizing sludge. To fix this, manufacturers have to rebuild the product chemically. They add thickeners like guar gum, carrageenan, or modified maize starch to simulate the creaminess of fat. But they also have to replace the flavor because fat carries flavor. So they dump in sugar. A single pot of healthy, low-fat fruit yogurt can contain as much sugar as a bag of sweets. You are essentially eating a dessert disguised as a health food. The fruit component is rarely fresh fruit. It is a fruit preparation, a jam-like substance that has been boiled to death, stripped of its fiber and vitamins, and then recolored with beetroot red or curcumin to look like strawberries or bananas. The tragedy of the low-fat aisle is that it trains your metabolism to expect high sugar intake. When you consume these high-sugar, low-fat products, your insulin spikes rapidly. Because there is no fat to slow down the absorption of that sugar, your blood glucose crashes soon after, leaving you hungry and craving more sugar. It is a cycle that keeps you buying, keeps you eating, and keeps you unwell. The supermarket profits from the problem and then profits again by selling you the solution in the form of diet products. This manipulation of the food matrix is subtle. It isn't poison in the traditional sense. It is a slow erosion of nutritional value replaced by aesthetic perfection. We have allowed our desire for convenience to override our biological need for nutrient-dense food. We accept that an apple should be shiny and blemish-free, not realizing that the shine is a wax coating applied after the natural wax was washed off during a chlorine bath. We accept that bread should be squishy for a week, forgetting that real bread goes hard in a day. As we move deeper into the store, the stakes get higher. We approach the ready meals and the processed meats, where the chemistry becomes even more aggressive. The ingredients lists grow longer, the names become more unpronounceable, and the distance between the farm and your fork stretches into a chasm. But there is one specific additive, hidden in plain sight within the meat aisle, that represents the pinnacle of this industrial deception. It is used to pump up the weight of the product, selling you water at the price of pork, and it is likely sitting in your fridge right now. That additive is polyphosphate E452. It is a chemical binding agent originally derived from phosphoric acid, and in the world of industrial chemistry, it serves as a water softener and a rust remover. But in the aisles of Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Asda, it serves a much more lucrative purpose. It turns meat into a sponge. When you purchase a standard pack of chicken breasts or a joint of pork, you assume you are paying for animal protein. You are not. You are paying for a suspension of liquid held together by chemical tension. The process is known as tumbling. Vast stainless steel drums, the size of cement mixers, churn thousands of pounds of meat with a solution of water, salt, and polyphosphates. The chemicals break down the protein structure of the meat, forcing the fibers to open up and trap water molecules that would otherwise drain away. The result is a product that is technically chicken, but structurally compromised, swollen with tap water that you are buying at the price of premium poultry. This is not illegal. It is standard practice. But the deception deepens when you attempt to cook it. We have all experienced the phenomenon of placing a chicken breast into a hot pan, only to watch it shrink rapidly as a gray, watery scum seeps out, boiling the meat rather than searing it. That liquid is the money you spent evaporating into steam. The supermarkets are legally required to state the water content if it exceeds 5%, but look closely at the label. You will often see 82% chicken in fine print. That means nearly 1/5 of the product you carried home is essentially expensive brine. They are selling you tap water for £10 a kilo. If this forensic look at the industry helps you decode the labels on your weekly shop, liking this video helps support more deep dives into the food system. But the manipulation of meat is crude compared to the optical illusions found at the deli counter. This brings us to the second item you must avoid: reformed ham and wafer-thin slices. Walk past the deli counter, and you see what appears to be a whole leg of ham, glistening and wholesome. You ask for 5 slices. The assistant carves them off. It looks like a single cut of meat. It is almost certainly not. This is a product of high-precision engineering known as restructured meat technology. To create this, manufacturers take scraps of meat, trimmings, offcuts, and muscle fragments that are too small to be sold as steaks, and place them into a high-pressure mold. To bind these scraps into a solid shape that resembles a leg, they use a combination of mechanical force and biological glue. Often, the meat is churned until the proteins are extracted to form a sticky paste that binds the chunks together. In other cases, thrombin and fibrinogen, proteins derived from animal blood, are used to fuse the pieces cold. The result is a log of meat that has the texture and appearance of a solid muscle but is actually a mosaic of leftovers. The visual trickery is so advanced that they can even engineer the grain of the meat to run in a single direction, mimicking the natural growth of muscle fibers. They can print layers of fat into the mold to simulate a natural rind. When you buy wafer-thin ham, you are often eating a product that has been tumbled, glued, molded, cooked in a plastic casing, and then sliced. It is highly processed, loaded with sodium to preserve the bind, and often injected with the same water-retaining gels mentioned earlier. The price per gram for this engineered collage is often higher than buying a raw joint and roasting it yourself, yet it offers a fraction of the nutritional integrity. However, the most pervasive deception in the UK supermarket isn't found in the fridge. It is found in the bakery aisle, surrounded by the comforting scent of warm yeast. This is the third item to purge from your cart: the standard supermarket loaf. The smell of fresh bread in a UK supermarket is a carefully managed piece of theater. Most of the loaves you see on the freshly baked shelves were not made from scratch in the store that morning. They arrived frozen, as dough pucks produced in a massive central factory weeks or even months ago, and were simply reheated in the store's ovens to give the illusion of artisan baking. But the issue is not just freshness. It is the chemistry of the bread itself. In the United Kingdom, we consume bread produced by the Chorleywood bread process. Invented in the 1960s to lower costs and increase speed, this method allows a loaf to go from flour to sliced and bagged in under 3.5 hours. Traditional fermentation, which allows yeast to naturally break down gluten and make the nutrients available, takes time that industrial bakeries refuse to spend. To bypass the natural rising process, the Chorleywood method relies on high-speed mechanical mixing and a cocktail of additives. This is where the label becomes a minefield. You might look at the ingredients list and see flour, yeast, water, and salt. You might think it looks clean, but under UK labeling laws, manufacturers do not have to list processing aids. These are substances used during manufacturing that are technically used up or inactive in the final product. This loophole allows them to use enzymes like phospholipase and amylase, often derived from mold or bacteria, to artificially soften the crumb and extend shelf life. These enzymes are the reason a supermarket loaf can stay soft for 10 days while a real loaf goes stale in 2. Your body, however, struggles to recognize this hyper-processed starch. Because the gluten hasn't been broken down by long fermentation, it hits your digestive system like a brick. This is a primary driver of the bloating and lethargy many people feel after eating a sandwich lunch, a reaction they often mistake for gluten intolerance, when in reality it is an intolerance to industrial speed. We are eating bread that has been designed for the convenience of the machine, not the biology of the human. The deception continues as we move from the bakery to the health aisle. Here, we find the fourth category of food that requires immediate removal from your diet: low-fat fruit yogurts. For decades, the diet industry has demonized fat, creating a massive market for light and diet versions of dairy products. Supermarkets dedicate entire chilled cabinets to these pots, branding them with slim silhouettes and pastel colors to evoke wellness. This is perhaps the most successful marketing lie of the last 30 years. When you remove the natural fat from yogurt, you remove the texture, the mouthfeel, and the flavor. You are left with a thin, sour, unappealing white liquid. To make this palatable, manufacturers have to replace the fat with something else. That something is sugar and vast amounts of it. A single small pot of healthy, low-fat fruit yogurt can contain upwards of 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar. That is half the daily recommended limit for an adult, consumed in a snack that is marketed as a weight loss aid. They use fruit purees that have been boiled down into sugary jams, stripping away the fiber and leaving only the fructose. To restore the creamy texture lost by removing the fat, they pump the mixture full of thickeners like modified maize starch, guar gum, and carrageenan. You are essentially eating a pot of sugary starch paste fortified with milk powder. The insulin spike caused by this healthy snack triggers a crash in blood sugar an hour later, leaving you hungry, tired, and craving more sugar. It is a metabolic trap designed to keep you consuming, all while you believe you are making a virtuous choice. The low-fat label is not a health claim. It is a warning sign that the product has been chemically re-engineered to compensate for the lack of real food. But there is a darker category of food, one that targets the most vulnerable demographic of all: time-poor parents trying to feed their families. It sits on the ambient aisle, in glass jars that promise the taste of Italy or India in minutes. The Jared cooking sauce is the fifth and final trap in this section, and its ingredient profile is nothing short of alarming. We have been conditioned to view these sauces, bolognese, tikka masala, sweet and sour, as savory dinner options. But if you analyze the nutritional data, many of these sauces have a sugar profile closer to a dessert. Take a standard jar of tomato-based pasta sauce. Tomatoes are naturally acidic. To balance that acidity quickly and cheaply, without using high-quality ripe tomatoes or slow-cooking methods, the industry dumps in sugar. A 500-gram jar can contain over 12 cubes of sugar. When you pour that over white pasta, which is itself a simple carbohydrate that converts rapidly to glucose, you are serving a meal that, metabolically speaking, is not far removed from a bowl of confectionery. The deception is masked by the savory context. Because it is dinner, and because it contains herbs and onions, your palate doesn't register the sweetness as a threat. But your liver does. The sheer volume of hidden sugar in these helper products is a major contributor to the silent inflammation affecting millions of consumers. And just like the bread, the meat, and the yogurt, it is designed for shelf life and profit margins, with your health treated as an acceptable casualty. These 5 items represent the baseline of the supermarket trap. They are the everyday items found in millions of UK trolleys. But avoiding them is only the first step. To truly protect your cart, you must understand the psychology of the store layout itself, the way the aisles are weaponized against your willpower. You are not a customer. In the eyes of the modern supermarket algorithm, you are a variable in a financial equation, a predictable biological unit navigating a laboratory designed to extract maximum value from your fatigue. Every sensory input, from the tempo of the background music to the friction of the trolley wheels, has been calibrated to lower your defenses. The shock isn't that they are manipulating you. The shock is how deeply they have hacked your biology to make you buy things that are slowly killing you. Consider the entrance. You are almost always greeted by the produce section, a vibrant explosion of greens, reds, and oranges. This is not an accident. It is a psychological primer known as the freshness halo. By forcing you to walk through the healthy items first, the store triggers a subconscious reward mechanism. You feel virtuous for putting a bag of spinach in your trolley. That momentary feeling of virtue buys the store the permission it needs to sell you the toxic items waiting in the central aisles. Your brain, satisfied with its good choice, relaxes its discipline, making you significantly more likely to succumb to the impulse buys positioned at the end of the aisles, the end caps, where the profit margins are highest and the nutritional value is lowest. But the manipulation goes deeper than layout. It invades the air itself. If you have ever walked past the in-store bakery and felt a sudden pang of hunger, you have likely inhaled a synthetic trigger. Many UK supermarkets utilize scent marketing technology, pumping the aroma of fresh bread or roasted chicken through vents near the entrance. In many cases, The bread you smell isn't even being baked at that moment. It is a chemical recreation designed to stimulate the salivary glands and induce a state of physiological need. You aren't hungry, you are being remotely activated. This brings us to the final and perhaps most deceptive item on our list of foods to avoid. It is the category that relies most heavily on this psychological warfare, weaponizing your desire for health against you. We are talking about the ultra-processed health substitute. In the last 5 years, the UK shelves have been flooded with products claiming to be the saviors of your diet. Low-fat yogurts, protein-enriched chocolate bars, and meat-free bacon alternatives. They are wrapped in matte packaging with earthy tones, covered in buzzwords like plant-based, high-protein, or guilt-free. Yet, when you turn the package over, the ingredient list reads like a chemistry set. Take the standard supermarket meat-free burger. To replicate the texture and mouthfeel of animal fat without using animal products, manufacturers must rely on industrial emulsifiers, stabilizers, and vast quantities of seed oils like rapeseed or sunflower oil, which are highly inflammatory when processed at high temperatures. To mimic the flavor, they utilize yeast extracts and heavy doses of sodium. A single healthy plant-based patty can contain more salt than a portion of fast food fries. You are trading a natural ingredient for a hyper-processed disk of pea protein isolate and methylcellulose. The tragedy is that millions of well-meaning shoppers in the UK are paying a premium for these products, believing they are protecting their health, when in reality, they are consuming some of the most heavily engineered food-like substances in existence. If this investigation into the hidden mechanics of the food industry is helping you see your weekly shop with new eyes, taking a moment to subscribe ensures you won't miss the next deep dive into the products we consume. It helps keep this research independent and focused on the truth, rather than corporate sponsorship. The deception of the health substitute is the perfect encapsulation of the supermarket's endgame. They have realized that the modern consumer is becoming wise to the dangers of sugar and trans fats. So, instead of changing the products, they have simply changed the narrative. They have reformulated the same cheap, addictive slurry, removed one villainized ingredient, replaced it with 3 unknown chemical alternatives, and slapped a green leaf on the label. This is why the central aisles are the danger zone. This is where the ambient food lives, products designed to sit on a shelf for 18 months without rotting. Real food dies. Real food wilts, molds, and decays. If a product can survive in a plastic packet for 2 years, it is because it is chemically sterile. When you eat it, your body does not recognize it as fuel. It recognizes it as an intruder. The rise in autoimmune issues, gut inflammation, and metabolic disorders in the UK correlates hauntingly with the rise of these ultra-processed staples. So, how do you protect your cart? How do you navigate a space designed to trick you? The answer lies in a radical simplification of your shopping habits. The most powerful thing you can do is to shop the perimeter, but with your eyes wide open. Stick to the raw ingredients, the unflavored meats, the whole vegetables, the eggs, and the blocks of butter. If a product has a list of ingredients longer than 3 items, view it with extreme suspicion. If it contains words you cannot pronounce, or if it makes a health claim on the front of the packet, put it back. Real broccoli does not need a label telling you it is high in fiber. Real salmon does not need a sticker claiming it is a source of omega-3. The health claim is almost always a compensation for the lack of inherent nutritional integrity. You must also break the rhythm the store tries to set for you. Wear headphones to block out the slow-tempo music designed to make you walk slower and browse longer. Write a list and stick to it with military precision. Do not browse. Browsing is where the algorithm wins. Browsing is where you pick up the low-calorie snack bars that are held together with glucose syrup. Browsing is where you grab the meal deal that saves you 50 pence but costs you your metabolic health. The supermarket of the future will not get better. It will get smarter. We are already seeing the introduction of dynamic pricing and personalized digital offers that nudge you towards the products they need to clear. The Just Walk Out technology removes the pain of paying, further detaching you from the reality of the transaction. The system is evolving to make consumption frictionless and thoughtless. To resist this, you must become a conscious friction in their machine. You must become a difficult customer, one who reads the fine print, one who ignores the bright colors, and one who refuses to trade long-term vitality for short-term convenience. The 5 foods we have covered in this series, from the bleach-washed pre-cut salads to the nitrate-laden deli meats, and finally the deceptive health substitutes, are merely symptoms of a broken food culture. By removing them from your trolley, you are doing more than cutting calories. You are sending a signal. You are refusing to participate in a system that values shelf life over human life. The next time you walk through those automatic doors, remember that you are entering a battlefield. The weapon they use is convenience. The weapon you must use is awareness. Keep your list short, keep your ingredients real, and protect your cart because nobody else is going to do it for you.